warning coincides with a major constitutional development as the House of Representatives advanced the legislation to establish state police, a proposal supporters describe as long overdue, and critics are warning that it could create new risk. Well, what we're saying that the government of Borno State has now reintegrated 720 repentant Boko Haram insurgents after undergoing a de-radicalization program at a Hajj camp in Maiduguri, the state capital. The Commissioner for Information and Internal Security in Borno State, Professor Usman Ta, who represented Governor Babangana Zulum at the oath-taking ceremony, asked them to embrace peace and respect constituted authority, having laid down their arms. So, there's some critical questions here. Is Nigeria finally at a turning point in its fight against insecurity, or are deeper structural reforms required? Joining me tonight on the program is to give some expert opinion and shine the light in the manner in the way we need to go. Tonight, I'm being joined by two gentlemen: security consultant, a lawyer, and a counterinsurgency expert, Mr. Bulama Bukati, who joins us virtually from London, and a former DSS director, security consultant, and now an author of a new book about his life, his service in the DSS, and the state of our security architecture in Nigeria. It's Mr. Dennis Amakri. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight on the program. Mr. Amakri, let's begin the conversation with you. Intelligence is key. And if we see a major general such as General Rabi Abubakar being kidnapped, who died in captivity, and there are questions as to how his body was delivered by armed terrorists, and all of these happen, and there are critical questions about, are we not aware about the identity? What exactly is going on? This man is being, and his wife is being in captivity along several others for days. What does this say about intelligence gathering in our insurgency war?
Thank you very much, Shem. You see, we are dealing with a more complex situation. And that complex situation is one that, is complicating intelligence reports, and then, of course, complicities from the environment, like where we are having other kinds of variables in dealing with this particular problem. I know fully well that these particular attacks that we are having, the resurgence, is not just one that started happening or is part of the insurgent situation. There are people that are basically behind it. There are people who are there to embarrass the government. And of course, remember, any year that we go through the election cycle, you have people like this coming up to challenge or put the government in power under pressure. And I think it is something that this government should not be shy away from, because there are a lot of things that they could do about it.
Mr. Bukati, the death of General Rabi Abubakar is a shock, isn't it? Many Nigerians will wonder, because the man is not just an ordinary citizen, but a former defense spokesperson who understood the security system. If someone of that profile could be kidnapped and die in captivity, should Nigerians conclude that nobody is truly safe anymore in this country?
I mean, you are right, Sheun. The death of General Rabi in captivity was a big shocker. It is something that sent shock waves across Nigeria, and I can tell you, even Nigeria's friends outside the country were shocked to see the gruesome way in which the retired Major General died. It tells us three major things. Number one, if a retired military general who was the chief spokesperson of the Nigerian army would be abducted and kept in captivity for about 2 weeks and be killed in that way, then it tells us that no Nigerian is safe. It tells us that rank and institutional history counts for nothing in the insecurity situation that we have found ourselves. Secondly, it also speaks to how bold, how audacious these criminal gangs have become. They didn't abduct him in a remote forest. They abducted him on a public highway in Matazu local government. They didn't hide him when they abducted him. They paraded him to all of us on TV, on social media, and they made demands to the government. They were negotiating publicly, saying this is what we want. And they are telling the government, these are our members you have arrested, and we want you to release them before we are going to release this military general. Now, it tells you how audacious, how bold they have become. Number three, the whole modus operandi of terrorist organizations like the bandits we see in northwestern Nigeria is to terrorize the public and erode public confidence in the government. And this abduction of the general is a strategically symbolic abduction that will naturally send shockwaves and also erode public confidence. And like you said, then it will make all Nigerians to question if or whether they are safe. But the fact that we know the group that abducted him, it was the group of Katalla Muhammadu. The security forces know the local government areas, the areas where they are operating in Katsina State, and the fact that they were unable to track him and save him, or at least engage the abductors before he was killed in the way he died, tells us that our insecurity is escalating. Showing it used to be a sub-regional thing. It used to be a geopolitical thing only in the northeast. It spread to the northwest, to the north central, and now to the southwest. And you can see that clearly Nigeria's security threat is now a national threat rather than a regional or sub-regional threat.
Mr. Makri, Nigeria spent trillions of naira over the years on defense and security over the last decade. Yet, kidnappings, banditry, terrorism, just like Mr. Bulama has described there, is spreading and has become a national menace. And there is a widespread of this threat on our land. At what point do we honestly admit that the current security architecture is failing, or has it totally collapsed?
Well, I don't think the present government feel that the security architecture is in top shape, and that's why the government is trying to make sure that it boosts the security architecture. We've been wasting some time, though. When it comes to state police, to boost that security architecture, it is taking forever. I have seen in Nigeria where within a week, bills are passed, and there's something that would have been passed a long time ago. It is just a few days ago that they just passed it for the state police to be established. And remember, this is going to go to all the states, to get their own consensus. Now, why were we wasting all that time till now? Because see, this problem we have, I think there should be more, more attention given to it. We are not the worst country when it comes to kidnapping. Other countries had been very, very much into it. Colombia, for instance, was number one, and they brought their own down to eliminated about 80% of the problem. So why can't we just follow their way? And if you allow me, I'll tell you some of the things they actually did, to bring down the threat they are having. And that will be, trying to have a frontal military attack. And then, of course, those ungoverned spaces that we are allowing them to occupy should be taken back from them. we have to keep back the physical space in Nigeria. And of course, this pressure cannot continue because as it goes on, people get worried.
I mean, so the question is that there's a fundamental problem with our security architecture. Is that right? And you think that the government of the day is aware. But from your experience, retiring from a service which you served all your working adult life, if we are to start to reshape or fix the security architecture of Nigeria, where do you think we can begin from?
I think we can begin from the commander-in-chief. We can begin from the commander-in-chief. One thing, I don't know, you and I have discussed this before. The commander-in-chief is the one that is handling the problem. He's going to be supported by the legislature with laws, to do some of the things he wants to do. And I think he has a National Assembly that can support him wholeheartedly if they see that he's serious. So the box stop on his table, and that's where we should start. Now, sometimes I feel sorry for the president because he is dealing with a myriad of all kinds of, variables, whereby as he takes one step, he's also being careful about, his political party, his supporters, he trying not to step on certain toes, and that extends it when it comes to the political season that we are in. So you find out that it's a situation where he has to play very, very careful, and if he wants to come back as the next president. I've said it many places, just like Jonathan did, stop the political campaigns, face the security, problem frontally, solve it. If we need help from outside, get it. Then let us go back to campaigning again, because if we are doing it, our attentions are divided, we are campaigning at the same time, they are attacking, people. I don't think people will even come out to come and vote.
Well, I mean, you have said that we see this trend towards election. During Jonathan period, we also saw elections were postponed. And if this is the thing and the sign, is it a strategy of the terrorists or their political hand in the resurgence or in the trend and the rise in insecurity? What exactly is it?
It is a big monkey hand, a monkey hand that looks like a human hand in the mix, whereby there are fifth columnists, believe it or not. There are people, the financiers, some of them are in government. Some of them are walking around the country filling their sacred cows. And that's why I'm saying that he should bite the bullet and then deal with these people if he wants to retain.
If this has a political undertone, could it be costly for the president who is seeking a re-election?
Exactly. That's why they are doing it, because they feel that because he's seeking re-election, if they bring up this problem and then, of course, embarrass him or keep him under pressure, he will do what they want him to do.
Mr. Bukati, do you agree with Mr. Makri? For someone who served all his years in the intelligence community, and if he says that there are political undertone, but I'm more concerned the audacity of the terrorists going to generals, going into the domain of our military installation and attacking them, trying to cause an embarrassment. Is it intentional? What do you think in the psychology? You have studied extremism and violent tendencies in northeastern Nigeria, and you probably might be able to read the minds of these terrorists. What do you think they are trying to achieve? A retired general in the army, treating him in this manner in which they have treated, is this all politics too, or what exactly do you think is going on fundamentally?
Yeah, Sean. So, for example, when we saw an dramatic increase in attacks around election time. Previously, they were mostly launched by Boko Haram. And we know that one of Boko Haram's one of the pillars of Boko Haram's ideology was that elections are forbidden in Islam. And so they launch attacks around elections so as to stop elections from happening, because as far as they are concerned, election is a sin, and their entire project is built on derailing Nigeria's democracy. Now, when it comes to periods like this one, two major things happen. Number one, there may be an escalation in attacks and expansion in the geographical areas where insecurity is happening. The second thing that happens is also amplification of attacks and problems, which in the past you would not see. For example, over the last 3 years, you have hardly seen any candidate for the 2027 election making statements about insecurity. But now it is close to elections, and politicians hijack every single incident to make statements, and every single incident makes headlines. That is because the government is trying to show that we are doing something, while the opposition is trying to show the public that the government is not doing anything. On the part of the government, criticisms they would ordinarily take in the chin and accept as constructive. When it is close to elections, they don't take those kinds of criticisms graciously. Instead, they would argue that it is the opposition that is doing this. And we have had this theory. Every single president, from President Jonathan to this president, would say there may be the hand of the opposition in the insecurity in the land. While every opposition during election will say the government is allowing these attacks to happen, or even orchestrating these attacks so as to declare a state of emergency and not to go ahead with the election. I don't want to buy into either of these theories. What I know is happening is that because we have allowed insecurity to fester in our country for a long time, it is expanding. And this is the natural progression of insecurity. The more it festers, the more it flourishes, the more it expands, and the more public confidence is eroded. And like I told you, this specific attack, if Kachala Mohamadu and his group knew that they were abducting a major general, a retired major general, then they must have done it in a way, or they must have orchestrated this particular attack in order to erode public confidence, and also in order to force the hand of the government to negotiate with them. One thing I keep wondering is, this man's, the security forces were unable to track this man alive. But immediately he died, we saw his dead body. Did the kidnappers bring him to the Katsina state government, or where the Katsina state government will pick him up? Or did they call the government to go and take him? And why is his wife still in captivity? Why are we still unable to track the actual kidnappers if we can get the dead body?
But what about the fact that they brought the body? The terrorists, well armed, went to drop the body. I mean,
yeah.
What message does that send out?
Yeah, I mean, if that was what happened, in the past, governments will say we don't want to attack them because we are going to kill the victims as well. Now, if they are bringing a person that is already dead, then what prevented us from attacking them? Why didn't we attack them?
And they have not. Why? They refuse to release the wife, the widow.
Yeah, they refuse to release the wife, and these people, we have their faces on video. They are using phones to make calls, so we should be able to track them. And they are doing this in the public. They are showing everyone that we can confront the government and do as we like. Sheun, this is a wake-up call for the Nigerian army. If a general will be treated in this way, and if this group gets away with it, if within the next 2 weeks, we don't see the leader of this gang dead or alive captured, then they are telling these criminal gangs that even military generals can be attacked and nothing will happen. And I can tell you that this will continue. We knew that General Alkali was killed by groups in Plateau State in the past. Nothing happened. Brigadier General Maharazu Iga was abducted last year. He spent 56 days in captivity and was released later, but credible reports say millions of naira was paid for his release. We have seen former and serving police officers abducted, some of them killed, some of them released after payment of ransom. If they allow Kachalla Muhammad to get away with this, they are telling him military general's life is also a fair game, and these attacks would continue. And I want those in power today to remember that General Abubakar Rabe was the chief spokesperson. He was the image maker of the Nigerian army when he was in power. This is what happened to him. And if our current serving officers do not do as they should to crush these groups, unfortunately, this may be their fate. I don't pray bad luck or evil for anyone, but this should serve as a lesson for all of us.
Quickly, let me ask you, President Tinubu gave terrorists and the bandits an ultimatum to surrender, to face overwhelming force. The Nigerians have heard similar declarations from successive governments. Why should citizens believe these one will be different? And why not take the fire to them? Why give them an ultimatum? Is it a fair game to say, come out now? I mean, if they come out, what are we going to collect? By the way, in Borno State, just yesterday, there are repentant. I mean, the Nigerians who feel so disgusted hearing the word repentant terrorists. Those who killed and maimed and destroyed our society say they have repented. What do you make of that scenario?
Shaun, enough of declarations, enough of statements, enough of speeches. Let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. President Buhari did the same. President Jonathan did the same, giving ultimatum, surrender by so time or we'll crush you, but they never did. President Tinubu should be different. He should get on with it. We must show these people that there is law and order in this country, and the way we do that is to pounce on them and to fight them just like they are trying to bring our country to the knees. Remember that the targets just before General Rabe were our schools. They are trying to drill the future of our children. And now these attacks are targeting military generals, targeting communities, and expanding to places like Oyo State. We have to get on with it. You were talking about money. I mean, yes, we need more resources, but what we need more than resources is better coordination. Better coordination requires, what I want to see from President Tinubu is a COVID-style committee set up by the federal government under either his own leadership or the leadership of the vice president or the national security advisor. And the leader of that committee should be given the operational mandate to command all our service teams, because right now we don't have one single power coordinating them. All of them are supposed to receive their orders from the president. And we know that the president is dealing with security, he is dealing with the economy, with education, with lots of other things, foreign policy and all that. What we need is an officer dedicated to only security who should have the operational mandate to command all the service chiefs, to command the Inspector General of Police, and also to command all state governors to work together. If we cannot administer one police force, tell me how are we going to administer 36 police forces when we have state police? Tell me one single institution that states are running better than the federal government. We have federal schools and federal state schools. All federal schools everywhere are better than state schools. Federal universities are better than state universities. Federal roads are better than state roads. Federal elections are better than state elections. Tell me, how will state police be better than federal police?
There are those
we
who
need
say,
to get on with it.
Yeah. So
yes,
Mr. Amakri, there are those who will say, yes, the marching order the president is saying, the hits the president said he was going to bring to the terrorists, that it shouldn't have given them the ultimatum. You remember what happened in Jonathan's period when elections were to be postponed. There were postponement of the election, but he brought in mercenaries. They cleared them so that the elections could hold. I mean, is it possible that hit the president is talking about is for real and it should happen almost immediately?
I think it should happen almost immediately, because it is not a matter of giving ultimatum. I don't believe in that. In fact, when I listened to the president's speech and he was telling them to surrender, I think, no, that is not proper. You know, we have been dealing with the one in Borno State, the 3 hours they used, you know, in de-radicalizing all these guys. And it has not given us much results, because these are criminals and murderers who have killed a lot of people. we cannot play, kids' glove with them at all. So I think we better be very more serious. And then, of course, there is an aspect that we are not looking at, and that is the criminal economy that is booming right now. Billions of, naira running to trillions, that exist because of this kidnap business. So that's another thing we want to look at.
So, but the issue of the state police, the bill has been passed in the House. There are those who fear governors could turn state police into personal political armies. And there are those who say this is the way to solve it. But from your own experience, you are in America at the moment. The experience of other countries or of other nations that experience terrorism and insecurity in the past and how they've been able to resolve it. Do you think some of the elements that's captured in the state police could help us resolve our insecurity challenges?
Seun, I want to be very, very clear about certain things because I think politicians are becoming emotional, or should I say, generally, the Nigerian citizen is becoming emotional about this. State police is an organization, not an appendage of the federal police. There are 1,800 police organizations in the United States here. And besides that, they have also sheriffs. Every local, like you have local government, the county have their own sheriffs that do different things. Now, they are separate because they are doing different kinds, they are enforcing different kinds of laws. We are to, when the National Assembly passed it, what I was looking out for was not there. Passing that law should also indicate the guidelines of what a state police is supposed to be. What are they supposed to do? What are the laws they are supposed to enforce? And of course, the sheriff or local government. And two states cannot be the same. That's why the state assemblies have to take up, this job. Now, we want to stop governors from misusing it. And of course, the governors they're like partners to the state police. They are not using them, I'm the CSO, but I don't have my own fighting force. That kind of language might not happen because you are not having them to fight anybody. You are having them to, enforce laws. And number three, which is most important, they must be trained. They are not just people you send there and say, okay, these are state policemen. Okay, they must be trained. Terrorism is a state issue in the United States. Terrorism. And then if they cannot handle that terrorism in their state or it spill out to another state, then they call in the federal FBI. So all these things should be written out in black and white before we go into it.
All right.
Otherwise, we are just running around in circles.
Gentlemen, I'd like a final question for both of you. And I'll begin with Mr. Bulama. If you were to advise President Bola Tinubu tonight for him to implement only one major reform to dramatically improve Nigeria's security situation before the 2027 election, what would that be? And why has it not been done already?
I will say two, Seun, you asked for one, but I will give you two. So it's buy one, get two. The first, Seun, and the most important is what we are not talking about whenever we talk about insecurity. It is how do we take down their supply and logistic systems. These people are operating in forests. We keep saying the forests are so dense that we are unable to penetrate the forest, but all their supplies come from outside the forest. Their fuel, their food, their medication, their drugs, their ultra-powerful Chinese motorcycles all come from outside the forest. And if we can secure these, our borders, if we can secure the forest from which, in which they hide and deny them the access to fuel, to food, they will come out by themselves. They will drop dead in the bush because they will have nothing to eat. They will have no drugs to operate on. They will have no weapons. They will have no ammunition to shoot. And if we are unable to penetrate the forest, at least we should be able to do this because this is outside the forest. We haven't done it because we have not leveraged technology well. Nigeria's borders are still not leveraging technology well. We haven't been leveraging technology to stop people from taking supplies into the forest for them and to stop them from spending the money. Remember, the millions they are making, they don't spend them inside the forest. The guns and ammunition they are using, they don't grow in the forest. They don't have an oil refinery in the forest. All of these are coming from outside. And if we can stop those from going in, then we will stand a chance. The final thing President Tinubu needs to do is what I mentioned earlier, a COVID-style committee. You remember when COVID happened, the federal government set up a committee under the SSG and they briefed Nigerians every week about the situation. The insecurity in our country has already taken the lives of Nigerians more than 1,000% more than COVID. And therefore, we need that committee under the president himself or the vice president, especially the vice president or the national security advisor. And they should be given this one task of tackling Nigeria's insecurity. And they should be given specific, measurable targets that must be achieved within specific time. And the president asks them to report to him and to Nigerians every 2 weeks. How many operations have they conducted? How many succeeded? What were the challenges? How many attacks was recorded? How many people abducted? So that some of this misinformation that is going around may have no place if the government gives information.
We need to leave it at that. Thanks so much, Mr. Bulama Bukati, and also Mr. Dennis Amakri. Gentlemen, thanks so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate it.